There was an old tape recorder on a weathered table. Its plastic case was scarred. The buttons had been pressed so many times they were soft. The room was quiet. For a while it stayed quiet. Then the machine stirred. The reels spun backward. The sound was a mechanical whine. The tape tightened with a hiss. A steady clicking built a rhythm. It pulled time the other way. Voices slotted in and out of the noise. Snatches. A man's voice, a woman's voice, static in between. A chair scraped. Footsteps paused. Silence pressed in. On a stack of messy notes, someone had scrawled questions, arrows, half-finished thoughts. He straightened the papers. He tried to make order out of the chaos. He sat at his old computer. The keys clicked. He wrote his promise. He typed, "I certify that this account is nothing less than the truth. It is no work of fiction." Ole K worked all night. He brewed coffee, checked the clock, wrote more. He felt something driving him. He said so in print. He asked the reader to listen with care. He warned readers that he had no proof. He asked them to judge the words on their own. The transcript began with a shock. It started with a voice, a testimony, a non-human voice. It claimed to be a reptilian. Ole first met her in December 1999. He described the day in slow detail. He wrote the date down. He set the scene. At first, he did not believe. He had a friend, Eli, who had told stories. Eli called sometimes at odd hours. Eli said he had met her. Eli described a woman, a beautiful woman. Not quite human, he told Ole. Ole laughed it off. He thought Eli had a vivid imagination. He thought he was listening to another traveler's tale. Eli kept insisting. He sent sketches. He sent notes. He was earnest, even oddly frightened. He asked Ole to meet the woman. Reluctant, Ole agreed. He told himself he would see a trick, a prank, someone playing with his friend's head. He wanted to close the door on it. He walked into a quiet room. She sat across from him. At first glance, she looked human. She was graceful. She spoke clearly. Her voice had cadence and calm. But Ole felt it the moment she spoke. Something was off. Not angry, not violent, just alien in a way the skin could not hide. She told him things that did not belong to everyday life. She described maps of places he had never seen. She named ancient conflicts as if they had been yesterday's news. She spoke of hidden cities under old mountains and of tides of thought that moved groups of people like flocks. Over hours, she revealed layers. Ole wrote, typed, drew. The transcript ran long, 49 pages in the final typed set. Drawings of anatomy, sketches of devices, odd diagrams that looked like circuitry and bone. He reported what she said, often in her own voice. Many sections, he later admitted, she forbade him to publish. She asked for restraint. She spoke of timing, of readiness, of not exposing everything at once. That night, as he stepped away, Ole felt the world tilt. He had been skeptical. Now he had notes that shook that skepticism. He opened his hands and tried to show the reader the raw edges of what he had been given. He promised no fabrications. He begged people to read, to think, to hold what he put down with weight. The tape hummed in the background. He had captured parts of it in analog first, then typed them out. The reels held a voice that sometimes hissed and sometimes sang. It was not constant. It came in bursts. A relic of the night, spinning backward as if time itself were part of the message. He did what he could. He organized the pages, he labeled the sketches, he noted changes. He warned that the published order changed the flow. Questions were shifted, answers placed in new context. He wrote, "This reordering may confuse some readers." It was requested. The meeting had cracked him open. The tape insisted the crack be heard. He offered the tape and the typed pages as both warning and invitation. "Believe or don't," he said. It made no difference, but he hoped they would. She unmoved. She leaned closer. Her eyes were too bright. They did not blink in the human way. She said she was from a line older than that of recorded history. She spoke of houses made under stone and under sea, places where a cold light glowed from the ceiling like dawn without sun. She used words for seasons Ole had no words for. She told of a split that happened long ago. Two currents of life, she said, had diverged. One bent toward heat and light and open sky. The other curled inward, skin that dressed itself in scales, an intelligence that loved the patient strategies of cold calculation. They had watched humans from a distance, she said. They had walked among them, not like the folklore brood, not as monsters, as shepherds of a kind. Silent hands at the corners of thought. Ole asked about motive. She smiled, a small, slow thing. She spoke of memory. She said the species, if he could call it that, collected histories. They fed on knowing, not hunger like a wolf, not thirst. They fed on memory as a way to anchor themselves against loss. Memory, she said, was a currency. The more a culture remembered, the more the collectors could taste. She described ways to nudge people, soft triggers, old songs, signals in pattern. A melody repeated until a crowd leaned, a phrase whispered until it clicked into mind. These were not obvious manipulations. They were thin threads tugged at the right moment. She told Ole of ancient conflicts, battles that had been fought over the right to remember, she said. There had been cities destroyed to erase a story. There had been sanctuaries burned to stop a line of memory from spreading. She placed blame and also absolved. She said that her kind learned, changed. Not all of them were united. Not all moved the same way. Some sought to aid, others to rule. Complexity lay like a map of rivers. She spoke of civilizations beneath deserts and oceans. She told him of devices that bent light and folded memory. Machines older than oil. Instruments that could store a thought like a bead on a string and later play it back for a crowd. She carried sketches of such devices. They looked like an odd combination of bone and brass. Tubes and curved plates and places for fingers. At times she grew distant. She said some things could not be told. "Not yet," she said. "Not until the weave is right." Ole asked why he, a lone skeptic, had been chosen to hear. She laughed, soft and almost sad. "You did not come empty," she said. "You brought Eli. You let your doubt carry the questions. Doubt breaks stone." She told him of names, places, dates. He scribbled them. He put them into a ledger. He typed them into a file and felt the keys tremble. She left him with tasks, little puzzles and warnings. Many of them made no sense at first. Later, asked not to publish. She made him promise to hold some notes back until they could be used with care. He left that night different. The tape had caught the accents of her voice. The recorder had sealed bursts of revelation. He felt like a vessel that had been drilled and set to receive a strange kind of water. He had notes. He had the tape. He had to organize fact from fever. He tried. As the days moved on, people asked. Eli insisted on retellings. The case gathered whispers online. People asked about reptiles, about hidden states of mind, about whether the world had more hands than the eye could count. Ole did not answer much. He preferred prints and typed pages. The transcript was his offering. The being's confession was on it. She spoke of influence. She said it was not always sinister. There were times her kind had saved populations from collapse. There were times they had held a knowledge safe from burning. There were treaties, she said, odd pacts sealed with symbols and vows that humans had forgotten. Then she said something that chilled him. "We are inside your stories," she said. "We are the margin notes. We live there because pages fall apart." "Memory," she said again, quoting a word like a prayer. The recorder clicked in the background. Ole asked for proof. He asked for a test. She offered a single map. She offered a single line of code. He could not verify the map. The code made no sense and yet fit into his mind like a piece of a simple puzzle. He left with the odd taste of truth. The transcript ran long and precise. 49 pages, he said. Drawings and diagrams, handwritten notes in margins, strange marks like insect tracks. But not everything saw the light. She gave him orders, not in a harsh tone, in a gentle way that felt like the pressure of a hand on the back of a thought. "Not now," she said. "Parts are dangerous." Ole agreed. He obeyed and he omitted pages. He marked them in red. He burned some notes. He hid others in a cardboard box with a label that read "Later." He feared what a certain passage might do if read without the map. She had asked. When he drafted the public transcript, he shifted sections. Questions were moved. Answers looked rearranged. He worried that readers would puzzle. He left notes in the margins about the reorders. He warned that the shape had been changed. Why reorder? He had two reasons. One was practical. She had asked it be done to weave a story slowly. The other was personal. He knew the raw sequence would terrify many. He thought a gentle reveal might allow readers to place their own steps. Still, people complained. It felt dishonest to some. Why hide what happened? They asked in forums. Others whispered conspiracy. Others thanked him, claiming that he had preserved what needed preservation. Ole argued that the omissions were not censorship, but safety. The missing pages, the ones burned or boxed, contained functional things, he said. Instructions, tools, patterns. She herself had said they were seeds, powerful and easily misused. There were sketches of devices in the missing pages. The shapes looked like the kind of things that could capture a memory and replay it. They included coils, bone teeth, plates of crystal. Annotations listed altitudes, angles, and the spacing of words. A diagram suggested you could amplify a fleeting thought into a public pattern. Ole wrote that the being had made him promise, not an oath, not a blood pact, a simple human promise. Hold this back. Wait until people were ready. He did not know what ready meant. She said time would show. He rearranged the public transcript to make a puzzle. He left thin threads, clues, and ellipses. He hoped the careful reader might reconstruct the whole. He imagined someone in the future tracing the crumbs and repairing the map. Meanwhile, debate thrummed online. Musings about hidden civilizations, heated arguments about the ethics of withholding. A few researchers contacted him. Some were polite, a few were urgent, terse, afraid. Ole kept quiet. He recorded. He kept the reel moving. He acted like a steward, not a gatekeeper. He said he would let time do the rest. He pushed the tapes into a drawer. He left the drawer slightly ajar. Time stretched. The page sat typed. People read and argued. The comments threaded like laces through corners of the web. Some mocked, some believed. A handful left messages that hinted at fear. Ole walked among the public world and the private one. The tape hummed. He told listeners and readers one promise: believe or don't. The world would not change for him, but he hoped they would read. The being returned to him in memory, not always kind. Sometimes her voice played at odd hours. He dreamed in snippets of machine and scale. He woke with diagrams stamped to his eyelids. Events emerged, a pattern of small coincidences. People who had lost a word suddenly found it on the street. A radio song repeated. Hidden messages in old hymns hummed in the background. Hardly proof, enough to make the wary glance. He gathered a few brave listeners to meet. They asked for more. He only had the redacted pages. He gave controlled readings. He warned them again. The omitted parts, he said, are not missing by accident. Some people followed the puzzle. They traced the sketches. They built models from fragments. The models worked in odd ways. A knife of sound sliced a memory like an apple. A phrase repeated 3 times stirred the room to collective recall. These were experiments. Small. Disturbing. As the years moved, the story became electricity in a bottle. It sparked. Some used it for comfort. They said the idea that memory could be shaped explained more than they liked. Others feared it. They said if such instruments could exist, the danger was global. Ole wrote a closing line in his notes that he left to the reader. Whether you believe or not, he said, this account has weight. If you choose to ignore it, ignore with eyes wide open. If you choose to believe, believe with care. The tape stopped one night on its own. The reels slackened. The red light blinked and then went dark. Ole put the recorder back in its case. He closed the drawer where the missing pages slept. He left the reader with a last advice. Test the story with your own life. Listen for repeated phrases. Notice when a thought returns like a dull bell. Keep your memory like a locked room. Do not give it away lightly. The transcript ends with a question more than an answer. It promises another meeting. It suggests a timetable that is not yet ripe. It wants the listener to keep watch. It asks the reader to hold the line between curiosity and survival. Ole's final note lingers like an aftertaste. Believe or don't, it makes no difference, yet I hope you will. He meant what he wrote. He left the tape, the drawer, the redacted pages, and the puzzle. He slid the recorder back onto the table and waited.